Let's see who we got. The record label that destroys rapper's career. The record label. I did. The record label that destroys. All right.
Over the years,
Let's see what
Atlantic
they're talking
Records, a huge
about.
record
Atlantic.
label and imprint of WMG,
It would be Atlantic.
has developed a bad reputation for themselves. From Meek Mill accusing Atlantic Records of taking advantage of their artists, to Gucci Mane saying that Atlantic Records was racist, there have been many incidents where their own artists have called out Atlantic. I mean, they even had that huge botting controversy recently where they were accused of botting their own artists' songs and videos to make it as if they were bigger than they actually are. And this could definitely prove problematic, as they currently have 153 artists signed, including some big names like Bruno Mars, Charlie Puth, Ed Sheeran, Jack Harlow, Lizzo, and many more. And if Atlantic really does what they've been accused of with their artists, this could mean that some of your favorite artists are in hot water right now. So let's look into it. Also, super quick, I want to say a lot of this stuff in Atlantic using I'm just compiling all of the accusations. Majority of racism accusations, there was a lot of crazy stuff. But the controversy started long before just recently. Atlantic Records began in 1944 and was founded by two Turkish brothers. I know, history sounds boring, but I'll keep this brief. When they first started, they specialized in jazz, R&B, and soul, with artists like Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, and many more. A couple of decades later, they became a subsidiary of Warner Music Group, one of the three major labels in the music industry, alongside Sony Music Entertainment and Universal Music Group. This is important to know because these three labels own pretty much every other small label except for a handful of indie labels, so it's kind of like a big business music industry monopoly type of thing. Because of this, a lot of shady stuff goes down in the music industry, since it is a business and its main goal is to make money, which I've talked about extensively on my channel if you are unaware. But many of these shady business accusations have been made against Atlantic in particular, and that's pretty much all the history you gotta know. I told you I'd keep it brief. There weren't too many controversies that I can find before the 2000s. However, after is when one of the first major accusations was made against Atlantic. In 2005, an artist named Lupe Fiasco...
What was the first record company, period, that started signing people?
Who's great, by the way.
Did he say?
Was it
one of them three?
Signed to Atlantic Records. Things seem to be going well, as he released his first two albums, Food and Liquor and The Cool, which both did very well.
Lupe was never that cool to me. I ain't fuck with him that much. From his first one, Kick Push, like I ain't like none of his shit.
Then in
I'm pretty sure he had one song I think he did like
Lupe announced
his career,
saying he was going to release a triple disc album called Loop N. This triple disc album would have fulfilled his contract with Atlantic Records since he had 3 more albums with them remaining, but they were not having it. Apparently, Atlantic was trying to coerce Lupe into signing a 360 deal, threatening to not promote his music if he didn't agree. If you're unaware, a 360 deal is when a record label promises financial support in areas such as marketing, promotion, tours, merchandise, advances, and
360 deal, they getting some of all your shit. Everything that you thought you was gonna be able to do outside the record label and get some money off of, nah, they getting some of that back in.
But in return, the artist is required to give.
Never sign a 360 deal, people. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You'd rather stay independent. Now, if you could get a big deal and get the right splits and own half of your shit, then maybe, but
all of those things and possibly more. So to put it simply, a 360 deal can often be in favor of the label, as they get large percentages of pretty much everything the artist monetizes. That sounds fair and definitely could be fair, but definitely is not always the case. As stated by Wikipedia,
you get a record deal, you like, bitch, I would give you half of the album that you helped me put out, you know what I'm saying? Whatever we work together and to do, you could get a little piece of that, you know what I'm saying? You put your bread up for me to make the album and all that, then cool, you get your money back and then you get a little percentage. But to get some of everything that I got going on outside of what we got going on business wise, fuck no.
The 360 deal, which began to show up in the early 2000s, reflects an attempt by the industry to tap into what traditionally had been the
360 deal's been around for forever and forever. He lying about that.
Exclusive domain of money-making opportunities, such as shows, sponsorship deals, or merchandising. So basically, 360 deals means that the label gets a bigger piece of the pie. And it makes sense as to why Lupe didn't want to sign this. However, Lupe didn't end up going the triple disc route and was stuck with Atlantic. He was trying to release his next album, which would later be titled Lasers, and it seemed as if Atlantic was preventing him from doing that, but his fans really had his back. I mean, 30,000 fans signed an online petition for the album's release, and hundreds of fans protested outside of the Atlantic Records office.
Like
Lupe even gave a speech there.
Directly to the fans. Unless the label, the ones, they got the album itself. You don't even got your own music. That's the crazy part. looked like he got a CD in his hands. I'm pretty sure he had the music and the album.
It seemed as if Atlantic had listened, and Lasers was released on March 7th of 2011, which debuted at number 1. Lupe has since elaborated on his situation with Atlantic when a fan suggested Atlantic was pushing pop records and that Lupe didn't want to conform. Lupe said, "Not accurate. I was comfortable making pop records. The issue was who controlled those records and what the ownership and splits were. Atlantic would only promote my records if they owned a large portion of them or if I signed a 360 deal. I gave Bruno Mars Just the Way You Are." He continued in another tweet saying, "The issue was never my ability to make hit or pop records. The issue wasn't even the business per se. My contracts were solid. It's when the label didn't want to abide by the contracts anymore and started throwing shitty little curveballs out of FOMO and greed. All bad after that." Also, I just learned what FOMO means like a couple months ago.
Abide by the contract that they did have. He like, I had a good contract. He like, I didn't have a shitty contract. They just didn't want to abide by the contract. Well, fuck. That's when you gotta put the contract in order. That's when you gotta have your lawyer say, "Look, I'm a sue, or I'm not doing this until y'all do this." And you know what I'm saying?
Fan who said, "The industry did you dirty." By quoting some executives, he said, "I cannot guarantee we will promote your records if you are not a 360 artist on the label." Lyer Cohen, president of Warner Music, 2008. Then he said, "We don't think Battle Scars is a good look for you, so we're not going to sign off on the release." Mike Kaiser, head of Urban Atlantic Records, 2012. And this quote perfectly brings us to 2012, where Lupe was able to put out his fourth album, Food and Liquor 2, but he still struggled with the label, with the previously mentioned Mike Kaiser scoffing at the rapper's attempt to acquire his masters, like Lupe had said. Lupe continued having issues with Atlantic. So yeah, so far it seems like Atlantic Records really stinks.
But you know what doesn't stink? Me. I try to make sure that I'm always smelling A1, because smelling good can take your look.
That's why Cash Money and No Limit had the best fucking deals you could think of. They kept like 80% of their shit and gave the label like 15%. So it's like, you know,
look in your vibe to a whole nother level. I don't know about you guys, but I just feel way more confident after, you know, you put
nobody
on a
else
nice
ever
fit
did that shit.
and
No
top it
Puff,
off
no
and throw on a little
nobody.
cologne. Recently, I got a few fragrances from Scentbird, like Drift Open.
Boy, what are you talking about?
It's amazing. Different smells, looks, and it's every Matty Ball. Make sure that you
weren't provided with a release date for a while for this album either, which resulted in the "You have 24 hours to present a statement announcing the immediate release of Lupe Fiasco's album." Then they said, Then 19 hours after these tweets, Atlantic announced the release date. Now I'm not sure if this was the reason they announced the release date, but they did.
I've had to have, there was a protest to get my third album.
It's Joe Budden?
A petition
I remember.
to get that album out.
I remember.
The last and final album,
I think
the
that's
fifth
Joe
album,
down there.
it took a hacker group, which was at the time fighting the Ku Klux Klan and the North Korean government.
And despite all of these issues Lupe had with Atlantic, he revealed even more things they did in 2020. On an Instagram Live with Joe Budden, Lupe revealed some very shady stuff Atlantic did regarding his first single,
Joe Budden picture looking like Fousey down there. Fousey tube. I couldn't tell if that was Fousey or Joe, but it's hip hop, so I knew it was Joe Budden.
Push from his debut album.
Who put Kick Push on the radio?
You did.
Kick Push was trash, man.
First and 15.
I'm gonna go back and listen to it now with my adult ears and make sure I'm not tripping. But last I recall, Kick Push was trash.
Which was giving Kick Push about 200 spins a week, and told them to stop playing the record.
It be the label that be forcing us to like certain songs. Once you hear that bitch on the radio a certain amount of times, that shit just get stuck in your head. You don't even really like the song. It just pushed up on you.
Craig Count.
And that's what's the label job.
He went on to say that he was friends with the dude at the radio station, and the guy told him that Craig, the executive, personally called and asked him to stop playing the song.
You know why he really did it?
Oh, no.
Because he didn't have nothing to do with Kick Push.
Yeah, if he can't get no money off it, then why would I push it?
He didn't have any.
Why would I push it if I can't get no money off it?
He didn't bring the producer. He didn't have anything to write it. He had nothing to do with it. You know what they did?
See, I got a business mind, so sometimes I understand business and I respect business.
To find the woman who we sampled the record from,
they push it out of proportion sometimes, and you know.
Entire record from
but it's business, man. You know exactly what it was when you signed
it. They actually own the song that Kick Push is sampled from. That's what they did.
Lupe continued to say that he could say the same thing about his other songs like Superstar, Battle Scars, and more, which is crazy and definitely some very shady behavior.
I would never want to rap over a beat that got 3-4 producers who worked on this beat. Like that's just one thing. Once I learned about that shit, like you got one producer made the strings, he made the hi-hat. Nah, now you gotta pay all everybody get splits and shit. Nah, give me one producer, man. Let's make this bitch from scratch, me and you.
But Lupe and Joe did joke about how it was low-key smart.
Isn't that smart?
It's genius. Joe.
Yeah, see, even Joe know that's smart business. Nigga like, well, fuck, I ain't got no part of your song. That nigga said, I'm going to own the sample that you took a sample, da-da-da, and I own that. So now I still own the song.
This shit,
it was smart. That was genius. It's business.
Double dip, they triple dip. It's
triple
fucking
dip.
Genius.
That's hard, Lupe.
Nigga triple dipped on you.
Yeah, that's hard.
Don't get me wrong. Trust me, Joe, I'm from
That's
the
why
streets.
you
I'm
need a
street
good lawyer,
for
bro.
real. This shit's genius.
Also, I think it's important to point out how Lupe said he only had issues with 3 executives for a variety of different reasons.
Only beef at Atlantic Records and has always only been with 3 people. Craig Allen, Mike Karen, and Mike Kaiser.
Mike
right?
Kaiser.
The rest of the building,
I thought the nigga was about to say Jimmy
Iovine.
Iovine. Yeah, Mike
He's an
Kaiser.
amazing executive and a wonderful record executive.
I know
And in
about
some
him.
cases, a wonderful person at that. Like, very supportive. Marsha
There's a whole
is
video about
amazing.
fucking Lupe.
The whole staff.
He even went on to
Damn.
say that they gave him his 360 deal while he was recovering from a nearly fatal pneumonia
We don't care
sickness.
about
So
no
clearly
Lupe that
Lupe's
much.
time at Atlantic was rough. But he was just the first of many artists to accuse Atlantic Records of some crazy things. In 2015, Waka Flocka said on Twitter,
Flocka.
I fucking hate my label, Atlantic Records let me buy out. In 2017, Action Bronson, who was signed to Atlantic, said on Twitter,
Yeah.
put my motherfucking album out, stay independent.
I ain't seen him. I knew he had lost a lot of weight. I
Ignite
ain't
the
seen him
bellway.
since.
Fireball.
Labels make a nigga
Jiminy
stop
Cricket,
rapping. They don't
you don't
even
even
want
have
to
a
rap no
club in
more.
your
'Cause
hat.
you notice that you be rapping
For fuck's
to
sake.
get nothing off it for these whole 2 years or whatever. So nigga be like, fuck, I'd rather not put nothing out than to do it and then the label get all the money. So they be like, fuck it, I'll get into something else.
Please listen to me. So in just 2 years, other artists said Atlantic was preventing their albums from being released, and Action Bronson went independent the following year. That same year in 2017, someone in the industry tweeted out
Flex,
a text
that was
message
after he
that
got
said,
on that
"Hey
surgery
dude, who are
table?"
some of the new Atlanta producers making fire at the moment? We have an Atlantic A&R meeting there in November. I'm trying to make a list of producers that we should have swing by and play some tracks / ideas for." Metro Boomin, who's an extremely successful and well-established producer, responded to this tweet saying, "PSA to producers everywhere, don't let Atlantic Records steal your soul." Metro followed up with a series of tweets saying, "What I said about Atlantic Records was directed at Mike Karen and the APG division, who deals directly with producers and songwriters." In some other deleted tweets, Metro said, "These guys got a whole textbook on how to put a hit together like it's a math problem. I to this day find it hard to believe. They
Nigga, you a
basically just want to
producer, you would've
slave you and
definitely been
steal your
better to
music
stay
to make
independent.
hits." Mike Will Made It also backed him up. In 2018, the producer Edan said that Atlantic Records called albums mixtapes so they didn't have to pay him as much as he
If a label sign a producer, they doing it so they can own all your beats for when you give it to the rapper that they own it already. You know what I'm saying? So
was the
producer, just stay independent, bro.
producer.
Did Atlantic actually
Reach out to
release
the
that
artist, do
project through the Atlantic machine?
Yeah, but they, I don't know if they called it a mixtape exactly, but they
Label
didn't treat
probably
it
own
like it was an
BeatStar.
album, which was just their way of not
BeatStar, you go in there,
paying
you
a whole
can get
lot.
all the producers.
You
and
answered
shit,
my
get the
question.
beat straight from
That's the
producer.
burning question.
That's happened with Wiz
But the label
albums,
probably
too.
own the
You know,
whole- you know what I'm
the
saying?
Khalifa album. I don't know if they called it a street album. They came up with some really clever name that essentially meant everyone involved, you're going to get paid, you know, half what you normally do. You know, it's a thing. I mean, it's I've seen it happen really more often in the last few years. Anything to save a buck for these labels.
And like they suggested, this seems to be a common theme among other labels as well, but the fact that there's been so many direct mentions of Atlantic Records doing all this crazy stuff makes them seem not so great. Somehow though, the accusations against them continued to get worse over the years. In 2020, the hashtag Atlantic Records is over party was trending on Twitter because of a few weird controversies. The first of which was this big conspiracy theory that Atlantic Records was trying to sign female rappers to take Nicki Minaj's spot as the top female rapper. Azalea Banks
It
spoke on
probably
this
was,
in an
fuck.
interview.
Nicki
Ain't nothing wrong
Minaj for a
with
very
that.
long time has had like complete market share of the female rap, and for a very long
I hate
time
her
these
for,
other music industry
Azalea
execs have been
Banks.
trying to
I do
push
not like
their
that
female
motherfucker.
rap products through. Nicki Minaj was just not letting the
I don't even want to hear
Mike
that
Kaiser
bitch
to
talk.
talk about Cardi B and her deal because people also
The
felt as
Throwback
if she was
Joe
being
Budden
mismanaged.
podcast.
Kaiser said
First- the
Cardi is
first
a
era.
superstar and we're gonna treat her as such.
I like
Okay?
the new
Period.
era
She
now,
will be
though. I
well
ain't
taken
lying.
care
Better
of.
than this
That's
era.
my word. But if you didn't know, Nicki Minaj and Cardi B had beef. So people think Atlantic Records brought Cardi B on board so she could directly compete with Nicki. Another female rapper named Lady LaSure said she turned down an Atlantic deal because they
looked
wanted her
familiar,
to
but I
diss
don't
Nicki. She said, "The first offer, massive, incredible amounts of money. I've never seen money like that. 250,000 pounds. She continued, offered a record label deal with Atlantic, who just kept trying to persuade me to do a diss track to Nicki Minaj.
What?
I didn't know Nicki Minaj then, like personally. We never spoke or anything like that. I knew of her come up, I've seen her journey, and I just thought she was amazing. So yeah, this was a pretty big theory, and it seemed like there was some truth to it. During this trending hashtag, fans also brought up things like Atlantic hurting Oliver Tree's career, members of Why Don't We saying they weren't able to release music either, and many more accusations came out. On top of this, around this time, Gucci Mane said that Atlantic Records was racist. He tweeted, leaving Atlantic Records July 3rd, these crackers polite racist. The following year in 2021, even more accusations came out against Atlantic Records from artists like PNB Rock.
The latest and greatest example of the fact that record labels just ain't
Damn,
now he's actually on Instagram complaining and he put up on his Instagram
trying to act all gangster and shit.
I want to buy out of this BS deal y'all got me in. Y'all making millions off of me for years, and I ain't even get 1 million. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just here to tell you that Atlantic Records ain't robbing PNB Rock. Okay, PNB Rock probably just only found out the game. This is what all record labels are.
He later explained himself in an interview with DJ Academics.
So, explain to me, because I know you're independent now, right? All the way.
Yeah.
Why are you independent?
Pretty much because I wasn't making money like off of my music like that. You know what I'm saying? Like with the deal that I had, it was just like a beginner's deal. You know what I'm saying? And when we was trying to renegotiate for that shit, it was
they
like,
put that spotlight on you, they make you big and all that, and they make you look like a star, but you ain't receiving none of the money, just the benefits.
That was on my last 2 albums. It was like we was at a stalemate. We just came to the agreement, like, man, we don't
just want
each other.
like a bigger advance, because I'm pretty sure
it wasn't no, like, me personally, like, I didn't know even about. I was getting a little money. I ain't gonna say they wasn't giving me no money, but it wasn't like the money that I was generating. You know what I'm saying?
Shortly after that, NBA YoungBoy said, I was going #1 2 weeks straight with a mixtape, so they took it down off the charts. I don't give a f, you still can't stop me. Don't sign to Atlantic if you're an artist. They're not going to support you, especially if you live a certain way. So it seems like they did a similar thing to YoungBoy as they did to Lupe, where they wanted more money from their artists, so they did some shady things behind the scenes to guarantee that the artists knew they had to go through their label to release music. And I know it seems like I just breezed through a bunch of these, and I kind of did, but it goes to show how many artists were over the years constantly accusing Atlantic Records of being up to some type of bullshit. But don't worry, the accusations still aren't over. Most recently, Meek Mill has accused Atlantic Records of some of the same things other artists like Lupe accused them of as well. In a series of tweets in February 2022, Meek Mill said, so look, I made Atlantic Records hundreds of millions and let me out. I honestly...
You signed it to Atlantic in 2025 and the same shit happening to you, then you must ain't do your research or your due diligence.
Not sure what he meant by that. He continued though, they still saying I can't drop music until 9 months after my last album got blackballed. He then said, Roddy my youngin' still, but that label separated us instantly when the millions came in from him. Same thing they tried to do with me and Rose. It takes a long time to catch up too, because most of them tied in for the love of some money. Artists scared to speak up. So basically what I believe was going on was Roddy Ricch was popping, so they kind of put Meek Mill on the back burner. And this happens at a lot of labels where if you have another artist popping, they focus more of your attention and resources on them, so other artists may have their albums shelved. Meek also said he had to fight for his life to get his 2016 album Dream Chasers 4 counted as an album, since apparently he once referred to it as a mixtape, which, if you remember, is the exact same thing that happened to Edan when Atlantic Records called his album a mixtape, so they didn't have to name it. You call that bitch a mixtape one time, they gonna say, yep, it's not an album, it's a mixtape, you can't get paid for it, and da-da-da-da, mixtape is free, and yeah, that's how they Meek
get
said,
you.
if y'all made 20 million off it, what is it counted as? He finished up his Twitter rant saying, if I didn't have millions, I'd probably do something crazy. They're outsmarting young black kids, taking advantage.
Nigga said, nigga make 20 mil off the mixtape, you was getting nothing thinking it's free, but damn, that's a dirty game.
And calling it business.
But nigga always say that, nigga like, fuck, when you put it out, nigga like somebody's getting paid for it. You might put it out for free and think that it's free, but somebody's getting paid for it and they capitalized off that shit.
Just speak up and tell the truth while you're winning, not when you're down. So I hope you guys are noticing a theme. So far, Atlantic Records has repeatedly been accused of 1, trying to pay artists less by calling an album a mixtape, 2, trying to...
Let them do it. If you know the business and you get them and you stay ahead of it,
to get artists
You
to
first
obey
do
them
it, make
and
sure that
threatening
it's
them by
counted as
not
an
releasing their
album.
music if they don't. 3, pitting their artists against other artists like we saw with all of the female rappers who claim Atlantic wanted.
Especially if you used original beats. If you used original beats and you paid money for it and all that, and you ain't stealing other people's beats, nigga, that's an album.
Artists to diss Nicki Minaj. And 4, they just straight up have done a bunch of other shady stuff we have seen in this video. I didn't even touch on the 2 SA lawsuits filed against multiple executives and the threats they made against Kanye unless they got a percentage of his 2 latest albums. So all of this had been going on for years, and you're probably wondering, how could Atlantic Records get any worse? Well, they got exposed for botting their artists' plays. On November 26 of 2022, No Jumper reported, Atlantic Records is under fire for allegedly botting all their artists' new videos, including Lil Uzi Vert, Roddy Ricch, A Boogie, and Don Toliver. There were some screenshots accompanied with the tweet that showed a bunch of fake comments on all of the music videos. Our guy Academics chimed in saying, damn, Atlantic Records went from being hella lit a few years ago to being They literally threw in the towel on marketing and promoting their artists. They just buy in wild amounts of fake views, which making their artists look even worse. Following this, I actually made my own video on it covering how this is actually a normal thing in the music industry, so I'll make sure to link that below if you're interested in learning more about this. But many people were just finding out about it, so it shocked many fans. This went so viral that Atlantic Records finally responded, denying any involvement. First, Don Toliver's team responded by saying, just like the other artists and their teams who have been attacked with botting reports, we are deeply upset and concerned. To be absolutely clear, neither Don or anyone on his team has had any involvement here. They also said, while we conduct our own investigation of these allegations, we urge Atlantic Records to do the same, to protect the integrity of not only their roster of artists, but their they didn't share any more information. Atlantic did follow up shortly after, saying, Atlantic Records has never used bots for any of our artists.
You lying.
Atlantic Records denies cooking the books, telling TMZ Atlantic Records has never used bots for any of our artists.
That's a lie.
Atlantic
never.
I know y'all already reached out, and you know what I mean. I might just let y'all lie continue. That y'all paid out invoices to people who were faking streams.
Just like that, and like everything else in the news cycle, people kind of moved on and forgot about it. But I actually got the industry insider scoop on this whole situation.
Like that?
Obviously, I don't want to expose where I got this info from, because someone confirmed to me that Atlantic Records was botting one of their smaller artist music videos without their permission, to which the artist obviously objected, allegedly. So these accusations were obviously very damaging to Atlantic's reputation. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these practices are not exclusive to Atlantic Records. Just because Atlantic has been called out more often than other labels, sure, they may be a bit worse historically, but many labels do these things. So as fans, I think it's important that we focus on supporting more independent labels. And if any of you guys out there are bots, then consider your boy Mike Balls and I
sponsoring this video. Wonderful product.
I don't know what to think about that video. Can't say it was entertaining, but it was a little bit of knowledge in there, I guess. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. If y'all like it, y'all let me know. Put it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Don't do it for the bar, just do it for the bar, just do it for the bar, do it,